Saans Dhale on Rajdhani channel of All India Radio and medium wave 50.5 meters corresponding to 666 kHz. Please stand by. This is All the Radio and I'll bring you the comments from the press.
This is All India Radio. You will now hear comments from the press. The Times of India, in its editorial titled Poisonous Bonds, writes, in an interim reprieve to the government, Supreme Court refused to stay the electoral bond scheme but directed parties to furnish details of the electoral bonds to the Election Commission EC in sealed covers. On Thursday, Attorney General K.K. Venugopal had questioned the need for voters to know source of political funds. Venugopal also cited right to privacy and fear of victimization to justify anonymity for donors. The specious nature of Venugopal's arguments ought to be embarrassing for the government itself. The opacity of electoral bonds can allow crony capital as well as foreign interests to influence policy making while staying hidden from public view. Amendments in Companies Act scrapped the ceiling that restricted companies to donating up to 7.5% of average profit over past 3 years and without requiring disclosure to shareholders. A Foreign Contribution Regulation Act amendment allows foreign companies registered in India to indirectly purchase electoral bonds. These provisions thus open doors for shell companies and adversary nations in Delhi and even state capitals. Amendments in the Income Tax Act and Representation of People Act preclude companies and parties from disclosing electoral bond donations to IT Department and EC respectively. The Tribune, in its editorial title, The Way We Learnt Define, says, today is April 13. 100 years ago on this day, our British rulers decided to teach us a long-lasting lesson in servitude by shooting down about 1,000 unarmed protesters, pilgrims and picnickers, only 379 according to the murderers' own count at Amritsar's Jallianwala Bagh. Instead, that day we learned a lesson in defiance, sacrifice, idealism and nationhood. Mahatma Gandhi turned this memory into a metaphor for martyrdom, building the first memorial for the fallen heroes of the Indian nation. And there we parted ways with our racist rulers, as the Tribune wrote, presently in 1919. The massacre soon became a hallowed memory, a marker and a milestone in our journey towards nationhood. But Gandhi's memory had no malice, unlike most other nation builders elsewhere in the world. Even when he was mourning the loss of lives or commemorating the sacrifice of the martyrs, Gandhi did it without rancor or hatred, without letting his followers lust for the blood of perpetrators, with utmost compassion, even towards his colonial oppressor, like a true disciple of Jesus Christ, or rather, a reincarnation. Gandhi's Sanatan Dharma was truth and love. There was no other in his politics. He never ridiculed the stooges of the British and always left space for all shades of opinion to coexist on his broad nationalist platform. It was sheer Gandhian magic that removed the self-destructive sting of hatred and revenge from the memory of martyrdom, creating a national consciousness over Jallianwala Bagh as a symbol of self-consuming idealism in all its purity. The Indian Express, in its editorial titled Light and Dark, writes, if Julian Assange, the co-founder and self-described editor of WikiLeaks, is extradited by the United Kingdom to the United States, he could face up to 5 years in prison on charges of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. The way the case unfolds will of course have a profound impact on the freedom of the press and the degree to which the governments can criminalize those who expose their working and the accompanying hypocrisies. It may also be an occasion for looking at the unintended consequences of the era that WikiLeaks ushered in and typified. The WikiLeaks release of classified documents in 2010 detailing alleged war crimes, government surveillance and diplomatic correspondence called public attention to the US administration's apparent callousness about lives, both civilian and military, in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and how it spied even on allied countries. In 2016, WikiLeaks released then US President hopeful Hillary Clinton's private emails and has been accused by the Democrats, including Clinton, of acting for Donald Trump with the aid of Russian interests. The attack on Assange has been twofold. First, it is claimed that he helped hack into US military databases and should therefore be prosecuted for this action. The Hindustan Times, in its editorial titled A Liberating Form of Expression, says, did you see the one with Ned Stark that says, brace yourself, Game of Thrones memes are coming? It's been doing the rounds for a few years now. It's surfacing each year around the time the next season of the show is about to start. It's happening again now, perhaps for the last time. That's essentially what memes are, according to Richard Dawkins, the evolutionary biologist who coined the term in his best-selling book, The Selfish Gene. A meme is